I had a good experience in my school involvement from kindergarten all the way to high school. Our family moved from the north end over to around 30th Street, and so I went to high school at Wyandotte High School, and over there I participated in a lot of sports and got really involved in school activities, kind of like I hadn't before. And by the time I graduated, I was the drum major. I think that was my first introduction to being a leader, was being a drum major at High School. I can't think of anything that I had been a leader of before. Graduating from high school, I had a scholarship to Bishop College in Dallas, Texas. I had a music scholarship, and I was a working musician in a local band. So I went for maybe a semester to Kansas City, Kansas Community College after I graduated. I didn't take the scholarship, and made my mother cry. I think I went about a semester and a half, went on the road with the band seeking fame and fortune. And well, didn't get fame and fortune, so a few years later I was back at Kansas City, Kansas Community College. When I was there, I took all the music class and that kind of thing, but Dr. Lewis and his wife were in the history, well actually she was in the music department, I think he was in the history department. They ended up allowing me to write a paper about Western University. It was for some kind of folklore class, Wyandotte County folklore, and I wrote that paper. It was the first historical paper I'd ever written, and that was the beginning of me trying to write. For a long time, I used most of what I learned from my 7th grade English teacher, who was Patricia Carruthers. Sometimes I think that teachers don't realize who they're going to touch. She probably didn't think I was going to be a writer. But because I really didn't show any skills of even desiring to write a paper other than what was going on in the class, but along the way I got motivated, and I found something I liked to write about, and it turned out to be local history, and it also turned out to be sports history. I met a gentleman in Topeka named Carol A. Moffel was his name, and he had played with the Kansas City Monarchs, and he inspired me. And so he died shortly thereafter, and I decided I was going to write a book about him. The book I was going to write about him took me 10 years to write. So I started writing articles, freelancing articles at no pay for the Globe, the Kansas City Call. I was just writing. The Call got me a Major League Press pass, and so I started going to games, and literally I was writing for free while I was working on this book. And along the way, the book became the Negro Baseball Leagues, a photographic history, and when it came out in 1992, it won the Casey Award for the best baseball book of the year. I knew about baseball, but when I met him, Mr. Moffel, and he began to talk about the Negro Leagues, it was an aspect of baseball that I knew little about. And I've always been a kind of curious person, and that was the drive to start working on the Negro Baseball League's history. Through that, working on that project in 1990, I was one of 5 individuals who signed the original incorporation and charter for the Negro League Baseball Museum. Of course, the oldest one was John Buck O'Neill. Most people know about him. Around I would say maybe 83, I came up with an idea, and I knew Buck had been here for a number of years, and so I said, Buck, why don't we get together and let me interview you for each year you were here, and you can answer all these questions that no one's asking. So I had about 20 questions that I was going to ask him, and I went over to his house, and we were going to do 1938 first, and it took 4 hours. And at the end of the interview, we were both exhausted. So needless to say, 39, 40, and all the rest of the years never got done. But I had the 1938 for a long time. And then after he passed, I had never written a book about him, just little articles. And so I thought I would do as a tribute, I would write this book about John Buck O'Neill called The Rookie, the Man, the Legacy. And his 1938 year was his rookie season with the Kansas City Monarchs. No, I never planned on being an author. My mother, she believed in history very much so, to the point that I remember when Martin Luther King was assassinated, I wanted to go out and play instead of watching the funeral, and she told me that, she said, there's history that you could read in the books, she said, but that's the other history that you live, and you need to sit down and watch the history that happens in your lifetime. I started coaching, I think it was around 1980, and I went out as assistant coach, and the coach quit. And so I was there, so I started coaching full-time, and that's how I got my first team. I ended up coaching about 35 years, and I coached in RBI, which is reviving baseball in inner cities, and I coached in Kansas City, Missouri. And the thing I'm most proud of there is that in the 5 years that I coached at the 18 and under level, I had 17 seniors, and 16 of them went to college. I wanted them to be better individuals, and I feel like sports has a way of doing that if you teach it correctly. When you played for me, I wanted you to feel like I can do greater things, and so I try to make an opportunity for sometimes ball players who maybe weren't as good, but I know if they didn't play for me, they probably would go home and do nothing. So I keep them around and put them right in there and find a slot. If you feel like, say, you have a passion for something, it's just not going to happen. You have to be able to focus in on that passion. I try to tell students, don't miss these opportunities that are here that you take for granted. And education is a mighty tool. If you don't succeed first time out, once again, that's no reason to give up on something you have a passion for. And if you really have a passion for something, it's hard to give up on it because you can go and do something else, but you're always thinking about it. I probably failed as often as I succeeded, but I just try to stay focused. You know, I can look back on myself. I wasn't always the greatest student, but I was probably one of the most creative students that I knew. And so I was able to use my creativity to come up with ideas that helped propel me forward. And moving forward, then I started to see the real value of the education maybe I took for granted. And of course, you can't go back and get it. You have to start from that point to get it all. And that's kind of what I've done. And to be mentioned with a group of elite people who have done wonderful things honors me, and it makes me realize that it's no time to stop. You've got a greater job to do. More people need to hear the message, and I'd like to think that this has been the greatest year of my life, and next year is going to be even greater.